I love them. They're my favorite monitors, best monitors ever used.
Sony has gone out of their way to build professional devices.
You dial in the monitor the way you'll like it dialed in, and it holds it.
The TRIMASTER OLED is a flagship brand product with Sony.
Stability is rock solid. We turn it on and it's exactly where we set it.
It is the go-to monitor for on-set.
Nicest thing about it is you turn it on and out of the box, it's where it should be.
OLEDs give me a power to do things that I hadn't been able to do previously with LCD technology, plasma, or even CRTs.
It's the future. I just don't see any purpose in thinking about buying any other sort of monitor at this time than an OLED.
The monitor is the arbiter of what you're doing. It is the beginning and end of everything you put out in storytelling. It's how it looks on the monitor. And so there has to be stability and consistency in the monitor. We have to be able to go from one facility to the next and be able to see exactly the same kind of picture.
I have the 24-inch OLED, and I just love the monitor. Aside from its physical properties, the fact that it's light and easy to carry around, has the built-in power supply, I love the incredibly faithful reproduction that you can get off OLEDs.
I mean, the color's pretty fantastic. It's one of the things I really like is that there's a lot of different trade-offs that you make, and for the applications that we're using specifically for cinematographers, the OLED's great because it has the ability to mimic any dynamic range. It has blacks that are blacker than we need. It has whites that are brighter than we need. It's able to hit the entire color gamut very accurately, so we don't have to worry about blues being shifted magenta or greens being shifted cyan. It hits exactly where it's supposed to. It calibrates and comes in, and I've been very pleasantly surprised by the fact that these things make it through production. They get boxed, they get put on sets, they get rained on, they get kicked, and they stay in calibration, which is very nice for me because it's always the first thing I worry about when someone has a question about colors is the display still in calibration. And that's been not a question with the Sony OLEDs.
The first time I ever saw an OLED, I never went back to LCD, and I bought one immediately, and I just couldn't even fathom going back to LCD or anything else because the difference is so dramatic.
We'd done a little OLED users group where we had about 7 or 8 of us bring in our OLEDs and turn them on, put signals on all of them, and you sat there with 9 DITs with their jaws dropped saying every one of these looks alike out of the box. And that, for me, is the most important thing, the consistency of the image.
One of the things that I've really liked about the OLEDs is that it's a series of monitors that Sony Japan worked really carefully to get right at its inception, but they've worked really hard with the customers. They've really listened to the feedback of the customer, and through the progression of the product, it's gotten better and better and better.
The CRTs was almost a daily event at the time where we'd go in the rooms before the artists arrived. We'd take out the probe, we'd calibrate them, tune them up, have everybody look at it, see if it was in spec. And we're a fairly large facility. At one time we had up to 15 of these monitors we had to do every morning, which put a strain on the engineering resources themselves and also the duties that we could accomplish. And for a task that should have been mundane at that point, and it wasn't. By switching to the OLEDs, we don't have the issue, which allows engineers to do more creative type of engineering versus maintenance engineering.
The 24-inch OLED that I own is the first monitor I've ever owned that came out of the box, and I looked at it and I went to the menu and I went, oh, I don't really think I need to do anything here. The grayscale tracking was excellent, the gamma curve was good, the blacks were right, out of the box. And the other thing I have found is I have been supervising engineer on other installations. We open up 10 boxes of Sony monitors, we put them on a table, they all match, right out of the box. That's quite a bonus. They're consistent, and I really like that.
And wow, just setting it up was one hand, I can lift the thing, one hand I don't even think about, it's 13 pounds. And I'm no muscle man, so it's just like right there, it's on the table. If I gotta unplug something in the back, I just grab the handle. The handle's great too, because you grab it, lean it forward. You don't have to walk around or lift it up. You just grab it, lean it forward. the extra SDI out is a huge saver. Now I don't have to bring an extra SDI distributor DA. I was working with a VTR guy just last week, and he's like, he got one as well, and he's like, yeah, Jordan, look, I can just patch you in there. I don't need an SDA anymore. And so that was like great because we were doing a multi-camera job.
We turn them on and they're working and they're giving us exactly what we want. We've managed to squeeze them into anything. So I've worked in mobile units that have LCD monitors for the video area. I won't accept that. And we just take the OLEDs and stick them right in front of the LCDs. And they're thin enough that we can do that, and there's no problem.
I had the BVM right in front of me, and then next to it I had my old LCD monitor, also a 25-inch, that basically was for the DP, because my attitude for the DP, he's just looking at framing, composition. When he really wants to see color, he's looking at mine. Well, it quickly became impossible to do that. First of all, it was like this. He's like sitting on top of me to see my monitor, and the LCD monitor just kind of sat there. And not to mention, the worst was when we were in dark situations, the light off of the black level, created a light off the LCD that just made it unusable for even, while we're looking at the BVM. So I purchased a PVM OLED for my DP for this year. And that's worked out a little bit better. He kind of stays on his side, although he's got a pretty discerning eye, so he does see the minor difference between the PVM and the BVM. But I have to say, the PVM matches incredibly well to the BVM.
It's interesting because it allows me to calibrate the camera at a way we've never been able to do before. And it's fascinating to me because here I am photographing a camera, my monitor has an image of that same chart, and now I can align them in a way that I can perfectly match what was the colorimetric intent of the original exposure. And it allows me control that I've not had before, particularly when you're doing something that's dramatic, something that requires a lot of tone in the bottom, but still not losing the highlights. And I'm not clamping the bottoms, I'm not crushing the bottoms, I'm able to hold that and make it without losing the highlight structure. And it's a really important thing as we start working with longer and longer dynamic ranges. And that's why I like using Sony OLEDs, because it really gives me the ability to see deep into the shadows while still maintaining a bright, crisp highlight, even in daylight.
We had to build a control room, and there wasn't room for a CRT monitor, so we initially used an LCD monitor. It was fine for the framing. And the producer came in and just kept getting more and more frustrated that the LCD monitor was not showing what the video operator was seeing. And the temperature was getting hotter and hotter and hotter in the control room. So I said, we got to get an OLED in here. And we put in the OLED, and it was like putting in an air conditioner, because all of a sudden everything cooled down. The producer said, oh yes, this is fine. I was seeing what video is seeing, and it was great.
Our clients love the TriMaster OLED for one reason. It gives much higher predictability and quality to their production. And by doing that, they're able to get their jobs done and guess less. They're able to really understand what they're looking at with respect to the color and the spectrum of dark to light, and get as close as possible the fit that the creative team is trying to accomplish from a color perspective.
We shoot long hours. That monitor's on for 15, 16 hours a day. It's being bounced around on my cart, going over cobblestone, trying to drag it through sand, all the other things. And I have 2 years of use, and I'm fortunate enough to work, over 2,500 hours a year on television shows. I've never had a problem with the unit.
Right now we use them for the most critical work we have, which is our on-set work with cinematographers. So when we need to provide a cinematographer with a personalized view that's going to represent most accurately what we get in our color finishing, we like to give the OLED as their personal reference monitors.
Sony has had a heritage of being a leader in being able to build display devices that can be used in post-production.
I pride myself on staying, state-of-the-art with things, so I look at everything that's out there. But at this point, the Sony still is the benchmark for, for on-set monitoring.
It's just nice to have a large company that stands behind the product and understands what business they're in.